County, which is known as Aspen for most places. And I had a court appearance up here, and obviously we don't have Crime Talk 1 anymore, so I am planeless. So we drove, me, we being me, drove for the 3.5 hours for a 15-minute court appearance because the judge wanted us here when a plea was entered, a plea of not guilty, that is. So we'll come back in January for a trial. Now, what I intending to do is, and we'll see how this works because I'm driving, but I may just go live for the view. Okay. Now this is. Let me see if I can flip this around here. Let me see if I can flip this around. All right. Here's Aspen. All right. We're in the outskirts. There's only about, I don't know, maybe 4 streets as you go up that way. And if you head back into town, there is, I don't know, a couple streets for shopping. It's a gorgeous town. Don't get me wrong, it's absolutely gorgeous. Up here, it's a hot one. The car is saying 99 degrees as of right now. It's pretty hot for Aspen, to say the least. I think our elevations up here is like 8,000 feet or something. Anyway, so came up here, um, listened to the Lindsay Clancy trial coming up here as well, and I just kind of talked about it on a show that I did right before we started my drive back. That Lindsay Clancy trial, man, I just don't know. Was she depressed? Was she truly psychotic? That would warrant not guilty by reason of insanity. Tough to say. Part of me is like, hey, you killed your 3 kids. You're functioning fine. The first thing you do when you come out of, having the tube down your throat, being intubated, you ask for your lawyer. Um, Clearly you knew something was wrong. She changes her medical power of attorney so that her husband can be taken off if they have to deal with that. But then the psychiatrist says, hey, that's pretty low level, you know, um, not a big deal. It's not like we're saying, amputating a leg or something like that, I think was the example that she used. Anyway, the medical staff, they're kind of going through their notes, but a couple of them seem to really be fond of Lindsay Clancy from what I perceived on the witness stand. So, anyway, we'll leave it at that. What I'm going to try to do here is position the camera. Be patient with me here. I'm going to try to position the camera so that you can see this beautiful drive up here. People just don't see these are, this is a little town. You could probably get this little fixer upper here. I don't know, 2-4 million bucks, something like that. Um, here, here in Aspen. Um, so yeah, nice little place. Anyway, I'm gonna try to position this. We have, oh, hold on, we have a Wi-Fi. Let's see here. All right. Can you hear me now? We're just giving this a little try. So that's the airport. But as you can see, this is literally the airport. Runway tracks this road here. And by the corner over here, that's the end of the runway. You take off into these mountains. Now, clearly, you probably need a jet to. You don't need a jet. You don't need to have a jet. But I'm telling you, somebody that's flown in here in a single engine, piston, multi-engine, and a jet, it's better to have a jet. The weather up here, the winds get crazy. It can be a big. Um, it can be a little intimidating. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't know if you can see that plane, but it just took off and it's climbing straight north. But there'll more than likely be another plane coming in just right behind it. There's also some weather up there coming in. Not a whole lot, but some maybe it looks like a little burga, which is rain that's falling that's not going to hit the ground. Anyway, so when we get out of Aspen here, we are going to go into Basalt. Now, all these little towns, these are where, you know, all the regular people live. All right. Wait, why is that not doing something? That's where all the kind of, well, even Basalt's getting expensive. I had a friend that grew up in Basalt, you know, in the 70s, and he said he wished he would have bought a lot of land in Basalt because he'd be rich today, or his family would be. He's since passed. But that was before Aspen was Aspen, and you could still afford to live there. It's made its way. All the people now live in Basalt. You know, they're rich but not super rich. Um, live there, and of course, everybody has their ranches out here as well. So, yeah. Anyway, so that's this is the road that we're heading on. It's leading us out of uh, town here for whatever reason. My little leg is stuck down there. Hold on. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get the best view that I possibly can, but I'm not sure that I'm helping anyway. Legs on this thing are standing up. Sorry, this is probably should have just taped it all. Anyway, you'll be able to see as we get going here. Yeah, so I see the comment here. Over the decades, lots of accidents. So actually, I took a mountain flying course years ago because hey, I live in Colorado. Want to fly to these mountain towns? You know, you want to be safe if you're going to do that, but you really got to be smart about it because if it gets too hot, the density altitude makes it so basically you have no performance, and it's just not good, right? And so I remember flying out of here. We were in a little multi-engine Baron, and the guy that I was flying with was a retired airline pilot, and he's like, "You see that burnt out spot over here? That's where the doctor flew his plane into the side of the mountain." I mean, it was everything was. That's where somebody died. That's where somebody died. So yeah, it's a dangerous airport, and I lost one. It's been I don't know, probably at least a decade or more. Bad weather. It was a big Gulf Stream. Nobody wanted to divert to Grand Junction because, you know, who wants to take that 2 hour drive when you're flying into Aspen? You've chartered your jet. Anyway, they came in and it was a missed approach and wind up flying into the side of the mountain because it was dark, it was snowing. Worst conditions you could possibly do for flying. So, anyway. So, like I said, this is our drive. We'll be coming up to Edwards really quick. And I'm not sure where we're going with this. But I just think the view, I recorded it one time, I think driving back from Grand Junction, and I thought, man, it's just like when we get near Vail and Edwards, I'm telling you, the most beautiful area around, the landscaping, the valleys and everything out here are just amazing. And we're from Colorado, but sometimes, Colorado, it's a big state. Get out of the metropolitan area. A lot of people don't come up, for example, like to Aspen because it's a long drive. But as you head in here, you've got Glenwood Springs, that is super nice. Uh, it's not, it's a mountain town. It's touristy. They got the hot springs, things like that. But a lot of people, even people who lived in Colorado all their life, never make it over to the Western Slope. I, if it wasn't for the practice of law, I remember as a kid, going on like a vacation weekend, and we'd go camping somewhere, right? Staying at a KOA campground. But literally practicing law in the state of Colorado for been back here 26 years now. I think I've hit every jurisdiction in the state, so I've got to see the entire state. But most people wouldn't. Obviously, we had the plane for 20 of those years, 25 years, and but it is pretty incredible just to the view here. Let me see if we're doing it. Stand by. I think we're back. Literally had flawless internet coming up the entire way. Um, and then now, of course, we go live. It's stopped twice. So, anyway, here we are. Maybe I'll just hold it. It'll be easier to see. Hopefully, you can hear me okay. For those who just joined us, it's my drive home from Aspen, 3.5 hour drive for literally a 15-minute court appearance. And, you know, I prefer not to do that. It's a little 7-hour adventure driving. But, unfortunately, the client is the one that has to pay for that. 15 minutes in court, 7 hours driving. Do on that. It's kind of steep, but they know that when they hire us. And they say, hey, and even if I'm playing, I still have to charge you gas, which would still be, still be less, maybe about $1,000 for the round trip, I guess. But it is what it is. We're here. So anyway, if you have any questions about my drive or any, legal true crime questions, we can try to do that as well. So let me tell you about my little stop in Aspen this morning. So I get there, I leave the house early because you never know. There's oftentimes construction, which there was today. It slows you down in some spots, but it was actually pretty good. Little construction coming over Vail Pass, which was nice. And so I get into Aspen. Of course, I pay to park. I buy 4 hours of parking at the meter, and that cost me, if you don't believe me, $27 to park at the meter. $27 to park at the meter. Usually it's like $1 or $2. $27, basically $7 an hour. It's not. I get it. It's limited parking. They have to do what they have to do. Whatever. So then I think, all right, I wish the lovely Miss Kristen had come with me. We could, while I go to court, she could stroll around and go window shopping. But she's not, so I go to this little cafe. It looked nice enough. You could see it outside. It was still nice, and it was cool. Everybody's in all their little workout clothes or their hiking clothes, and here I am in my suit, clearly looking like a working stiff, and they're all enjoying their life in Aspen, finishing their breakfast, and I've been up since 6 a.m. So I said, they told me that the lunch menu was now going to be available because this was like 11:30. I said, oh, that's great. I'll take the turkey panini. Okay, this was like a little bun with maybe 2 pieces of turkey meat on there, probably thinly sliced from the local Whole Foods, in my opinion, and cheese, a couple of pieces of cheese. $17, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm not complaining. I get it. I know it's Aspen, but that was the most expensive 2 slices of turkey I've ever had. And I didn't even get an Arnold Palmer. They probably would look at me like, "Oh, we're sorry, we don't have lemonade or we don't have iced tea." Uh, so ate my lunch, walked around for a few minutes, took a couple of pictures. Frank's going to put those up on the video today. And like I said, I was the only one walking around Aspen in a suit today because I'm just a working stiff, and everybody else was enjoying their life, either on vacation or they lived there. I think a lot of vacationing. The people that are sitting next to me at the little cafe, they were talking about they were going to finish up their 5 weeks here in Aspen, and then they were going to go somewhere else other than Aspen. Must be nice. I just thought to myself. But anyway, so here we are. Now we're heading, like I said, we're heading out of Aspen. I always wanted to show everybody because people Colorado is so different. As we come up here, we're driving basically north right now. We're on Highway 82, and that'll ultimately connect us to I-70 here in Glenwood Springs. If you go left, there'll literally be canyons out there that will look like something out of the Grand Canyon. It's really quite beautiful. And then we're going to take a right, so we'll get some of those canyons, and then obviously you'll get mountains. I mean, the topography changes, the scenery will change, and I think most people don't recognize how beautiful Colorado actually is. And I woke up in Denver and it was a little hazy. I think there was some smoke from one of the fires. That's actually, if we go up here and we take a left, it'll be in that area, and it would take the left, go west, but no sign of any fire overcast as of right now. So anyway, let's see if there's any comments. Oh, Pamela has joined us. Pamela is probably the most loyal subscriber we have. She always comments, always says hi. I always try to give her a shout out for doing that as well. We appreciate it. And all right, so we're coming up here. So if you have any questions about my drive home, or you would like to discuss cases, please let me know. Now, I briefly mentioned it when we were when I did my show for today. Now, okay, see, we're here, Basalt Business Center. I don't know if you can see that over there. I don't know if I can zoom in there. Basalt Business Center. So we're in Basalt, just north of Aspen, and I don't know. I think Aspen's about 40 miles south of I-70 or Glenwood Springs, and there's even more beautiful parts. If you go out to like Grand Junction and you go south, you got Delta, Montrose, Telluride, Durango. You go further south there, you got Pagosa Springs. It's a good, it's a 7-hour drive. I mean, I think it's like 5 to Ouray, which looks like something out of a European, mountain scene or something like that. So anyway, as you can see, there's a couple little clouds. We're getting a little bit of rain here, but obviously that'll stop. Anyway, I digress. We'll jump back to the drive here in a second. But we talked about it briefly today on the show that we put up. And I usually don't, give shout outs to other people, but there was one that came up, and Brian Enton, he had an interview with Cy Ray, who was the expert in the Brian Koberger case, he was their cellular uh, data expert. And since the case is over, he is speaking out. He thinks the investigation was shoddy by the FBI and the police, but he says there's no doubt that they got the right guy. And he says he can prove it. He says that he has information based upon his data and his reports that if the police had done a better job, that they would have found out from the cell phones from Maddie and Kaylee that they matched up with Koberger's phone being at, for example, like a Dairy Queen. He also believes that maybe the Koberger was probably in that house on previous occasions, kind of scoping it out, but never got caught. His phone turned off, and if you look at kind of the patterns that people had, he'd never driven that particular way home where he heads south from Moscow, Moscow, Costco, Moscow, um, and he did it again. He never did it, before that because they have all that data, and apparently there's all these other apps that keep even more better data than the cell phone data, and that's what he looked at. And he said that's basically what the police failed to look at, and they would have had a much larger case. And he thinks that there is some issues with the genetic genealogy, and could be years down the road, but he thinks there may be a potential issue from there. He also thinks that he has that Brian Koberger has somewhat an unhealthy relationship with Ann Taylor, and it was really kind of interesting. You don't normally see a defense expert throw their client under the bus, really what it boils down to. But his report was there, and he said the defense didn't like his report, and that was one of the reasons why they wanted to move to continue, is because they basically wanted to try to find some more experts, because everything kept coming back bad to Brian Koberger. So interesting interview. Go check it out. Brian Enton's interview with Cy Ray, and the Gonsalves family, the parents and the sister, were on as well, and they were able to answer questions. So how often do you get that, right? The family getting to talk with the experts, and they had basically heard a lot of this stuff already, but it was nice to hear that it was corroborated. So I know there's a lot of pro burgers out there that think he couldn't do it, but he says, hey man, the defense did recreations. They have videotapes of these recreations. And yes, he had sufficient time for this to be a one-man show and to do what he did. So I thought that was absolutely interesting, just for the mere fact that, like I said, you don't usually get the defense expert throwing people under the bus like that. You know what I mean? You just don't usually see it. So anyway, sorry, I'm going to try to see if I can't mount this one more time, because my previous thought of mounting it didn't quite work out very well. So we're going to try again. If you don't succeed, you try again. Let me see if I can set this up here for just a second. I know, I apologize. That's so bad. I should have thought this out better, but we were just trying to do it, and then you see the scenery, and it was just like, man, it's too good not to show everybody parts of Colorado. Um, so let me see if I can get this set up here. We're going to give it a shot, and then hopefully I'll still be able to ask questions or answer any questions that anybody may have, whether about the drive or whether it's be about legal related as well. We'll see what we can do. Okay. Okay, we think that's stable there. There we go. All right. Not exactly the best for reading questions off of there, but let me see if I can do this here. Okay. Let's see here. All righty, here we go. All right. As long as that doesn't fall over, we're going to be good. Be careful, Scott. Yes. Oh, yes. Good comment there. Unforgivable. He also talked about how people thought, oh, there's no way that Brian Koberger could possibly uh, do this on his own. It'd be too exhausting. No way it could possibly happen. Apparently, the defense, maybe I think it was the prosecution, they were kind of holding it. They hadn't, done this, but Koberger at some point, I think in high school or college, takes up boxing, and they showed him. They have a video of him basically boxing, throwing 160 punches within a very short amount of time. And so the theory being that it's more than possible that he could have gone in and stabbed all four people quite easily. So thought that was interesting as well. Uh, like I said, you don't often get the defense to do this. Now, Cyray did state on that podcast with Brian Enton that um, you know, the defense had sent some cease and desist out to some other people saying that there's no way, that we're on the defense team. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. That said that, um, there's no way that Brian Koberger could have done this. He's innocent. It couldn't have been done by one person. And that the defense team lawyers sent out cease and desist to them saying you got to comply with your NDA. But Cyray says, coincidentally, nobody's asked him to not talk about what is going on. So the family was also upset because Brian Koberger's family apparently was involved in on the plea agreement and knew about it before the family did. And Stephen Gonsalves, who we talked to him at CrimeCon, very passionate about obviously the death of his daughter and wants to make sure they got the right guy, or they believe he's got the right guy, no doubt, and that this doesn't happen again. Hence the reason for their nonprofit that they've started. But he was very, very what's the word I'm looking for? He does not like the prosecutor in the case because when they got an attorney, they basically stopped talking to them whatsoever. And so, I think he was not running for re-election. The prosecutor, the guy that looks like Santa Claus, and John Robinson wasn't his name. Anyway, he Bill Johnson, I think. Anyway, he it'll be interesting to see. Now, I'm of the mindset that the motion for a new trial will ultimately be denied. Now, Cyray thinks this thing could have some legs. He thinks it's because of some cases that are going on that will ultimately get to the Supreme Court that have to do with genetic genealogy, and that will be the turning point for Brian Koberger. I see where he's coming from, but I don't think that it's going to work in this particular case for him. And the reason why I say that is because although I wish he had stated or been asked by the judge during the plea colloquy back in July of last year, tell me in your own words what you did. The judge said, did you commit the death of, Kylie Gonsalves, Madison Mogen, Ethan Chapin, Sandra Kernodle, right? He said that. And Koberger said, yes, yes, yes. I wish the judge had said, tell me in your own words what you did. Then it would be absolutely bulletproof. And just wanting to withdraw your guilty plea is not a basis to withdraw your guilty plea. I've said that repeatedly. And buyer's remorse, everybody gets buyer's remorse. Okay? I was thinking about this as I was watching that show. I had a case, bad case, multiple homicide case, and wasn't good. Let's just say wasn't good. Confessions, two dead people, knife wound, not good. Not good at all. All right. And we ultimately got a plea. And, we could have gone to trial. Chances of conviction were quite high, like multiple life sentence, quite high. But a plea was offered, and, it wasn't life without the possibility of parole. But more than likely, the client would die in prison. And so you got to go have the conversation saying, hey, I get it. It's not a great deal. It's still probably a life sentence. But really, what you have to think about is your quality of issues while you're in prison. And if you're on, life without parole, they're going to send you to all the crappy places. You're never going to be eligible for parole. You're never going to get any classes while you're in custody, anything along those lines. All right. So the guy ultimately says, all right, I get it. Um, you know, and let's just say there were lots of drugs ingested. So we couldn't go like NGRI. And I was listening to the Clancy case when they were talking about, it sounds like they're being so gentle with Lindsay Clancy when she's at the hospital. And my guys, like, they were being so mean to me. They were purposely inflicting pain on me because, he had been accused of killing two people, one being a wife and a friend. And, the kids were left inside the house. It was bad. Anyway, ultimately, there's a plea. And like I said, it's big numbers, basically a life sentence, but you have to think about quality of life issues. And that's, I'm sure, what Ann Taylor and her team had conversations with Koberger about, that these are quality of life issues that you have to think about. If you're on death row, you're going to get out 1 hour a day, and that's it. Whereas if you're not, even if it's life without parole, you'll be able to take classes. You'll be in general population eventually, etc. Now, obviously, Brian Koberger's had kind of a tough go of it because he, a lot of people wanted to take some shots at him. So they basically kept him in protective custody, which means 23-hour a day lockdown. And, when you're the center of attention, everybody's coming to visit you at the county jail, life is pretty good. All your attorneys are coming to see you. The doctors are coming to talk with you. You can talk to, your parents, that good stuff, right? Then you get to prison and nobody cares. Nobody's coming to see you anymore. You're no longer the center of attention, right? So he says, this isn't what she promised me. I don't like it. I want to withdraw my guilty plea. It's been a year. I just can't do this. I'm actually innocent, right? Um, he claims the hair, which is apparently, it's Ethan Chapin's hair, is what they believe it to be. It doesn't go to anybody other than, freaking dog hair for all we know. They had a dog in the house. It could have been a hair that was, on the bed from a friend had slept over or something. Who knows? But nothing to say that hair was, someone was involved in the murder because of it. All right, I'm going to move this over here. Hopefully you can see this. All right. Let me see if you can see this now over here. I don't know if you can see that down in the valley. Just green, the river running through it. Just absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, so so Koberger, he gets a little buyer's remorse, doesn't want to stay in jail anymore. Wah wah wah. As we say the other day, he's just a little bitch. And the reason I say that, somebody said, why did you use the term bitch? That's not very nice. I'm like, well, that's what people in prison call you if you're, they say, don't be a little bitch. Okay? So that's the term when I say Kohberger's being a bitch. I'm sure the people in his cell block are like, oh, dude, you're being a little bitch. Can't keep up with a little, rattling of, yelling at night. Wah, wah, wah. So don't be a bitch. That's the way they talk in prison. Or at least some of my clients tell me. All right. They're saying, yeah, you can't go down there and be a bitch. So anyway, so Brian Kohberger wants to withdraw his guilty plea. He writes to the court, and we've seen it. Judge, I'm actually innocent. I didn't do it. My attorney lied to me. I want to go to trial. Well, in 99.999% of the cases, the judge can simply say denied. Okay. If you may notice this, the guy down in Texas who killed the little girl, kidnapped her, sexually assaulted her, and then killed her, left her in a little shallow pond down there in Texas. He too pled guilty, right? Gets the death penalty, but he says he wants a new trial because, it's the aggravation phase. That's when they bring in all the bad stuff, right? So, anyway, he does that. He files, I want a new trial. The judge could deny it. Now, this is where I disagree with, Cy Ray says, oh, I think he's going to get a hearing. I think along the lines that he is not. And the reason why I say that, he may get a hearing, but he's not going to get a trial. Just wanting to withdraw your guilty plea is not basis enough alone, particularly after you've pled guilty. The standard is a little easier if you want to withdraw your guilty plea before you're sentenced. But once you're sentenced, it's basically looked at as though it's done. Okay? Um, and there's not much that you can do. But in Kohberger's case, what he did is he said, my attorneys lied to me. Okay? And that's going to be the issue that the court cannot just necessarily say, I don't believe you. Now, I'm sure the judge doesn't believe him. And I don't think Ann Taylor is going to come in, contrary to Cy Ray. Cy Ray says that he thinks that Ann Richardson has an unhealthy relationship with Brian Kohberger, like has continued to go visit and see him like on a weekly basis while in custody, which is usually a little weird. And he thinks that he will, or Ann Taylor will fall on her sword to get him a new trial. I don't think she'll do that. I don't think as an attorney, if she does that, if she says I lied to my client to get him to plead guilty, she probably doesn't need to have a law license, right? You can't lie to your client like that and order him to make misrepresentations before the court. So that's why I don't think that Ann Taylor will do that at all. Okay. And so I think the best case scenario for Brian Kohberger, and like I said, for me, I would deny it. And let me tell you a little rule of thumb that a lot of judges work by. Okay. I had a judge once. He started off as a prosecutor, and he had an interesting story. He was a prosecutor, but before that, he was a nurse, and he had served on a death penalty case. All right. And coincidentally, years later, I represented that other guy, that guy that was on the death penalty case. He didn't get the death penalty, but anyway, we won't need to go into all those details. Anyway, I'm talking to the judge one day, and it's like, oh, judge, you can't believe it. So and so wants to, say that, I didn't tell him something, And the judge said, as straight face as you could possibly be, he said, Scott, someone will get a post-conviction relief hearing in my courtroom when the Court of Appeals tells me to give them a hearing. So the general rule is judges deny those hearings. Okay? Now, sometimes there's enough, the judge will say, well, If I deny it, it'll probably go up on appeal, which is what Brian Koberger would have to do, basically appealing the denial of his petition to withdraw his guilty plea. Some court of appeals could look at it and say, well, we just didn't develop the record enough. Send it back so that we can send it back so that we can create the record on it. Okay. So, would that happen? That's probably the most likely scenario. So the judge might as well just have a hearing, have Ann Taylor come in. Did you lie to Brian Koberger? Did you tell him to lie to the court? I'll bet you $1. She says, I did not tell him to lie. Did you vigorously and zealously represent Mr. Koberger? She would say, yes, I did. Did you hire experts? More than you could possibly imagine. You spent a lot of time on the case, yeah. And you charged like $8 million for the defense of Brian Koberger for a guilty plea, right? Yes, I did. Or that's what got billed through all the experts and everything. But the point is, that's what he got. A excellent defense. And when all was said and done, who asked you to go to the prosecutor and ask for a plea bargain? Well, Brian Koberger did. Did you have his permission and authority to do that? Yes, I did. And did you, in fact, do that? Yes, I did. And they agreed to it, right? And you went over the paperwork. And you went through the Rule 11 paperwork where it advised him of his rights, his appellate waiver. Yes, I did. And he signed it. Did you beat him with a rubber hose? Did you, do anything to force or coerce him to enter into that plea? I'm going to, once again, I'd put money on it that she would say, no, I did not. Okay. So then the judge would say, nope, motion denied. Okay. So I think that's probably the best case scenario. I don't think Ann Taylor's going to come in and say, I told him to lie. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some death penalty people. And when I mean death penalty people, death penalty lawyers. And I've told you this in the past. I've only done one case, and there was a death penalty case, and we actually convinced them not to plead him or allow him to take the death penalty off the table. We still went to trial, but it wasn't a great case. It was a cold case, but cold case with a lot of DNA in various orifices of the body, if you know what I mean. So it was a tough case. But sometimes the people on the death penalty stuff, I've seen those guys that literally say, yeah, I would in fact, lose my license, do something unethical if it meant saving their client's life. There are some people that are that fanatical about it. All right. So I don't know Ann Taylor. I'm not going to speculate, but she doesn't strike me as one that would jeopardize her law license. Like this is going to be the guy you want to ruin your career over. I can't imagine that would be the case at all. Yeah. So I see this. Cy seemed to think that Ann would fall on her sword. I don't think she will. Attorneys, listen. Generally, attorneys, and I tell this to every associate I've ever had over the last 20 years, we will zealously and vigorously represent our client. We will do everything legally and ethically permitted to zealously represent our client. But I've never met a client, tell this to all my associates, never met a client worth going to jail for, and never been paid enough money to jeopardize my law license. And I think that most attorneys are of that mindset. Okay? And I think Ann Taylor is of that mindset. Like, hey, Brian, it's been a good couple of years, build a lot of money, you're a really nice guy. Maybe, wouldn't invite you over to Thanksgiving dinner. Certainly wouldn't want you to watch the kids, but you seem like a nice enough guy as long as you're in a cage for the rest of your life, right? And, she probably, she had to develop a trust level with him, which obviously she did because she had to have recommended him to take the plea over proceeding to trial and a death penalty. And I'm telling you, once the jury would have seen those bodies, the stabs, the violence, the brutality, the pure evil that went along with that, Ann Taylor knew the jury would find him guilty. Okay? Really, it's that simple. And that's why she recommended he take the plea deal and stated, I believe on the record, that, when asked, do you believe this is in your client's best interest? Um, I haven't looked at the transcript or the video, but I think she said yes. We watched it just the other day. We pulled it up, I think, on our live last week. Which reminds me, other than this live, we'll do a live tomorrow night at probably do 5:30 Mountain Time. Look at that. All right, little break here from legal talk. Now we are heading into Glenwood Springs. All right, we got the forestry office here. Um, this is where sometimes the canyon floods in a good old rain, and you got to get stranded here. This is kind of the turning point where they can't get through going through the canyon. Now I'm telling you, you're gonna like the canyon. All right. And these are, basically little tourist towns here, but uh, it's nice. They've got some good restaurants. Obviously, it's a little less expensive than going to Aspen. Um, but as you can see, it's kind of changing a little bit. Out here, off to the left, out here to the left, you see, the scenery's changing just a little bit. Anyway, we're going to get on the highway here. I think we go down under the bridge. It's been a Yeah, I think we go down and under the bridge to get out of here. So, um, so that's here we are in Glenwood Springs. All right, and then we'll go through what they call Glenwood Canyon, um, which is actually pretty amazing. It's Colorado River, and the water's actually really low. When I was coming up in Keystone area, Dillon Reservoir was just about. Um, I mean, it was very low. I wouldn't say empty. That would be an exaggeration. But let's just say it's lower than I think I've seen it. But and in the summer times it does, and it was a mild winter, and it will more than likely, it'll be a normal winter this year, my guess. It happens before. I remember as a kid, you had droughts and stuff, but everybody acts like if it doesn't pound a bunch of snow, that it's we're somehow all going to die. We're not all going to die. It's called summer. It's called normal weather patterns. It happens. It happens. Don't panic. It will be okay. Anyway, so some example, like there's a hot springs. They've got the hot springs. You can pay, go into the hot springs. So there's the river over here. I don't know if you can really see. I'll try to move this over here. You can see we got 158 miles to Denver. So we'll see how quickly it goes. We'll make sure our Wi-Fi stays up, and just maybe sit back. I'll try not to talk the whole time, but if you want me to, I'll try to do it. And yeah, so like I said, hopefully you can see this here. Maybe I'll move the camera and see if I can move. The problem is it's got this damn mirror thing over here, and I don't want it to block it out. If I go up too high, you'll do that. So just saw one of the comments said 45 years since you were in Colorado. Well, there's some good things and some bad things about it. All right, let's make sure we don't lose our Wi-Fi. We head into the tunnel. Like XM satellite on the car, it doesn't go through when you lose it sometimes. Anyway, but as I have like no cell when I go through the Glenwood Canyon. I've got like one bar on my cell phone signal, so obviously I wouldn't be able to do this, but for the fact that I got the Starlink on the roof. Now, I had the Starlink for the airplane, which was pretty cool, and had it on the Land Rover. So like he was like, oh, I'm gonna buy it when I go fishing, right? I got my satellite phone, I got my satellite, I got it all, right? Because if you're out here, you don't want to not be, you know, be connected, so to speak, with anybody. So, like I said, I got one bar going through the canyon. You'll lose service, so we wouldn't be able to do this but for Starlink. And this is not a plug, but Starlink is the most amazing thing I think I've ever seen. All right. I remember when I first heard that they were going to do this thing where they're going to beam to the jungles in Africa and the deserts around the world, Wi-Fi from space. I think I laughed out loud. Okay, I'm like, that's never going to happen, right? I can't get Wi-Fi from the next room. You think you're really going to do it for space? That's ridiculous, right? So I'm talking to my son. He just moved to Germany. I'm like, how does it work over there? What do you get? Like a cable or something for your Wi-Fi? He goes, no, I bought a Starlink. And I'm like, well, what's a Starlink? He goes, it's the satellite, Wi-Fi from space. I said, well, doesn't he goes, it sits outside. It's got this little plate. It has a heater on it. So if it gets ice covered, it turns on and it melts the ice and snow because he's in Germany and they get that. And he said it's like an amazing, amazing thing. I'm like, okay. So I see at one point you can get a mini, and I think it was maybe $200. And I'm like, okay, well, I kind of bought it maybe for the novelty of it, and it's like $50 a month. So I'm like, okay. Now there's people out there rafting. I don't know if you can see them out there. Some rafters going down the river. Anyway, it's great. So like when we went to Turks and Caicos, the lovely Miss Kristen and I, we hotel room, but it wasn't the best Wi-Fi. So I could literally throw the Starlink, to see to position it, and boom, had Wi-Fi just like that, where I otherwise wouldn't have been able to do any kind of a show from anywhere. So I have just become absolutely hooked on this. If we travel, throw it in the backpack and go. Um, everybody thinks, what do you think, Scott? The world's coming to an end or something? Like, no, but if it does, I want to be prepared. And like I said, hopefully they'll never need it. Hi, Scott. I'm not sure if your assistant told you, but the collection of to do a collaboration. Yes. Deadline crime. Yes. I've just been busy. I know you and Anna have been talking. I think we should be able to do something this week. All right. On the Chris Watts case, and there's another guy. I mean, uh, what did he do? Avoid the death penalty, pleads guilty. What's their immediate talk of? His little, fan club is like, he's innocent, he's innocent. Then he wants to withdraw his guilty plea. And let's just say I had, some personal knowledge as it related to many, many of the requests that people wanted to try to help him and withdraw his guilty plea. But like lots of things in life, everybody's all in for it until either A, work has to be done, or B, it involves putting up money. And then nobody wants to do it. I'm like, hey, I'm more than happy to represent y'all. We'll see what we can do, right? Make no promises or guarantees, all that kind of stuff. But the reality of it is chances of winning that are probably slim to none. All right. And that kind of goes back to the Koberger rule. The unwritten, you won't hear about this. You won't see it in textbooks anywhere. All right. But there's an unwritten rule called the SOB rule, right? If your client is such a son of a bitch, too bad. You see that oftentimes in appellate decisions where they, although there was error, it was harmless. That's basically saying, yeah, you didn't get a fair trial, but basically you're such a son of a bitch, we're not going to let you do it again. Okay? So it basically wouldn't have made any difference throughout the trial. Now look at that river. Look at those boulders that have been washed down there. All right? Look at that. Pretty spectacular. Um, but it looks a little low. Now in the spring when I was over here, that thing was it was it was coming down. The water was moving really good. We have to come back next week. We got another case out in Mesa County, which is kind of on the way here. So we do a lot of traveling here in the next couple of months. The trial we set today isn't until January, so I need to book those hotel rooms now, since that'll be peak season out there in Aspen. I may have to rent a room in Basalt or something like that just to uh, you know make it happen. We'll have to wait and see. But definitely need to get a room now because it'll be expensive. We ran into that when we did that multiple deceased children case that originated down in Telluride. We were originally going to do it in Telluride, which is once again a ski town, much smaller than even Aspen, but very expensive, particularly in the ski season. And I mean the room rates were I don't know, it's like $800 a night, which isn't bad compared to some places, when you stay like that, but still pretty darn steep. Um, Sorry about the salvage guy in front of me hauling like crushed up cars or something, or aluminum. Got this nice view, and then here we got this semi in front of us that's not so great of a view. And that's where you find a lot. See, they're doing construction. There's always something going on in this. I think they built this like in the 80s. They built this highway that's elevated. It was supposed to be better, but we'll see. All right, we're going through a tunnel. If I lose you here, um, give me 1 second here. Hopefully. All right, and we're back. It's funny, when I was driving up and listening um, to the Lindsay Clancy trial this morning, I'd go through tunnels and everything was fine. In the afternoon, go through a tunnel and everything disappears. So as you can see, they got this elevated highway up here. I remember as a kid they were building this stuff, and it seemed like it took like 20 years for them to do it. And then they've been just adding on to everything. And I don't know if you can see it over on the left-hand side. They got these big metal chains reinforced for the boulders that when it gets cold and the frost comes and it freezes, oftentimes the rocks will kind of break loose and roll down. One of the craziest things that ever had happen to me was I was coming out of the Eisenhower Tunnel. I had just gotten back from officer candidate school. My wife was pregnant at the time, and I'm in the left-hand lane and couldn't get over, and there's a rock right in the left-hand lane, and boom, hit this big boulder that had hit the car. I thought we'd gone airborne. It was just the airbag that was blinded me. I'm like, oh, this is what it's like when you're dead, literally. And then all of a sudden, I just kept the car straight, got the airbag out of my face, and pulled over, and a good Samaritan, I think it was a nurse, pulled over and took my wife to the emergency room to make sure the baby was okay. Took my son, who was 2 at the time, and I think she delivered my daughter, I don't know, a couple of days later after that. Um, my gosh, that would have been almost 30 years ago, aging myself, because my daughter is turning 30 this month and my son is turning 32. Jeez, did I just age myself? Anyway, but they still had airbags, so it wasn't that long ago. Anyway, so you got to be careful with rocks and everything that kind of fall on the road here. It's, that's for sure. Is definitely a piece of work, but hopefully it'll be a good Good chat. Well, I think it was you. It was just schedules. I think it was going to have to be later tonight, but one way or the other, we'll get. Hold on, it says it's reconnecting here. Oh, looks like we're still streaming. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that chat, and hopefully it'll be good. See, unforgivable sign. My youngest turned 37 yesterday. Yeah, God, does that go by so fast? Uh, my kid's 13th and the 18th. They're gonna be 32 and 30. Can't believe it went by so fast. All right, now I don't know if you'll be able to see this. Maybe I can try to zoom in a little bit, but over here off to the right-hand side of the road, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, look at these nice little ranches over here on the hillside. I mean, isn't that just gorgeous? But then you have, stuff over here on the other side of the road that is different, almost different little landscape at all. You got mountains over here, you got like canyons that looks like something out of the Grand Canyon. And obviously there's a river that's running down here, hence the reason for there's trees. Let me see if I can get this position so we can keep it there. Yeah, so there's the river. So, like I said, this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous drive. I know some people would say, "My God, Scott, don't you have something better to do? Could you listen to the radio, maybe make some telephone calls?" Yes, but like I said, listen, if one person sees this and says, "Oh my God, I had no idea," that's pretty incredible, is it not? I mean, look at this canyon. Look at this canyon. It's just gorgeous. You just can't beat it. I mean, it's just a gorgeous drive. Then you head out to the eastern plains of Colorado, and it just looks like flat land, grass. Looks like Kansas. Part of the longest drive in the country, right? From eastern Colorado to Kansas City, get to Missouri or something, and finally it looks decent. But so, I mean, Colorado's just, I mean, most people don't realize that you have like these type of canyons here, and the topography, the vegetation. I mean, it's just, most people don't know. So that's why. Oh, hopefully we still have audio. I think we're still good. Yeah, we're still good. So yeah, it's like I said. So if maybe one person likes it and says, "Wow, I should probably go check that out," or I had no idea that Colorado looked like that. Here, now we're heading into Eagle County. This is where, in my opinion, it really gets good. Okay, Eagle County is where Vail is. All right, they've got a great airport up here. I was actually going to go with a friend. He called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to fly a right seat?" He flies corporate for a company. "You want to fly a right seat? We're going to go pick up, like the owner's kid and fly him back." And they're going to go to Eagle County. And unfortunately, at the last minute, I couldn't go. I was super bummed because it would have been a good day of flying, or somebody else was paying the bill, which would be better. So anyway, this is the start of Eagle County. And of course, Gerald Ford, it's Gerald Ford Highway. He loved Vail. He spent so much time up here in Vail. It's very, very nice. I'm not a big fan of Vail, to be honest with you. There's some places up here that are better, in my opinion, than Vail. I think Vail's kind of like Aspen, totally overpriced for what you get. Super crowded. I mean, it's been years, like decades, since I've skied there. I just don't ski anymore. I haven't probably skied in 25, 30 years. Just because I don't do cold. After the military, I don't do cold. Anyway, so this little stretch right through here of Eagle, I think, is amazing. I mean, just take a look at the mountains here and the colors. and you got the river running through it, right? Just amazing. So this is Cerro, little town here, Eagle County. A lot of these, people that move here, um, it's kind of far enough away from Vail and Aspen that they can actually afford to buy a house. I know everybody talks about affordability of housing these days, but mountain towns have always had a big problem with that, just because obviously as the need for help with tourism grew, where are they going to stay? You got to pay them enough money, but it all goes to living expenses, and basically they can't afford it, so it gets super tough. So uh, it's been a problem, and it's not anything just unique to Colorado. Everybody's had it. It's expensive to live other places, but when you live near the tourist towns, it gets really expensive, particularly when the people that live there have these huge multi-million-dollar homes, and they want all the conveniences of living from wherever they came from. Usually, this is a second home or something along those lines, and they want all the modern conveniences, but then the prices out to locals. You can't afford to pay the wages, and it just makes everything more expensive. I was looking at what the expenses were for lift tickets, and my God, I think it was like $600 per person, without some sort of special pass or something like that per person. You take a family for four, you're going to go $2,500 for a day trip. Are you kidding me? Nobody's going to. Don't get me wrong. I've wasted a lot of money in my life, but I'm not sure a day of skiing is worth $2,500. That's before you buy gas, buy food, get a hotel, spend a week up there. It's just, in my, I think I'd rather do something else with it. But what can you say? Anyway, back to the view. Does anybody have any question? I don't know. I'm assuming people can still hear me. Just kind of enjoyable little drive. See, now, speaking of affordable homes, I don't know if you'll be able to see this over here to the right. Like these little homes right next to the water. I have no idea what those go for, but it's probably a little studio type apartment there. Probably still a couple $100,000 just because you're in the mountains. Everything's more expensive in the mountains. Or you could buy a trailer and you can live with that, I guess. It's one case way of keeping the rent low. So, all right, so here's the drive. Should have done a live stream with the Starlink in the plane before we got rid of it. That would have been a lot of fun. But I guess if you screwed something up, I'm sure somebody would call the FAA. When you watch those flying channels, you see lots of people put like disclaimers. All checklists have been complied. All right, so here's Eagle County. Got the airport coming up. The Western Slope, big mountains, snow covered all the time. But actually, the Rocky Mountains are not that big, actually. I mean, they're big. You got to go over them. But most of it in between all the mountains are these little valleys where cities have sprung up. And we're kind of be coming up on a spot up here. It's going to be off to the right-hand side. I'm telling you, it is just the most spectacular view around. I'm sure you get this just a little bit higher here. There's a ranch coming up here, so that's the airport up there on the hill. There's a river down there. Okay, here comes this little spread down here. Take a look at this. All right. So you got this in the valley, Eagle County, and you got to have the red barns for all your horses and stuff and what have you. Let's see if I can show you that over there. But then it continues like all the way down here, where they plant whatever they plant. Just spectacular. There's gonna be some more spots up here too. I wish you could, talk about a good place to go fly fishing. Okay, someone's got a question. Question is, if everyone is innocent until proven guilty, then why should be an innocent person have to pay for their own lawyer to defend themselves, even if they can afford it? If they can afford it. Well, that's just the way it is. I guess you could say that. When somebody makes an accusation against you, you can certainly represent yourself. Nothing says you have to get an attorney. In fact, you have a constitutional right to represent yourself. Even if the state wants to give you a free attorney, you can still say, no, I appreciate it. I'm going to do it by myself. It would be nice if there were a way that, let's say you were acquitted or the case was dismissed, you could get reimbursed by the state, but that's just not going to happen. Why? Because it's the state, the sovereign, they have immunity. And, a judge has supposedly looked at it, neutral and detached magistrate has looked at it and found that there was probable cause. And that's all they need is for probable cause for the case to go forward. And, it sucks, like in a civil case, somebody has a dispute, everybody pays their own attorney's fees. Nobody gets reimbursed unless some sort of contractual, the losing party has to pay or something along those lines. But same thing in the criminal world. It sucks, but yep, you got to pay. Oops, sorry. You got to pay your own way. If you can afford it, if you're indigent, they'll give you a free attorney. But I get it. If I'm innocent, then why should I have to pay? I get it. But you don't have to hire an attorney. You can do it yourself. You can do it yourself and save, which I would not recommend. The old saying that he who represents himself has a fool for a client. Yep, that's it. Wouldn't recommend it. You hire people to give you sound advice and to remove themselves from the emotion of the battle. Because if you're getting sued or you're being accused of something, sometimes you can put some blinders on and not look at some bad things that could really happen to you. And that's what you're paying them for, is to say, no, I understand you're upset. I understand you think this is unfair. I understand that you had to pay a lot of money to hire an attorney. I understand that you maybe lost your job. None of your friends will talk to you anymore. But let's take a look at this. A reasonable jury could conclude that you did something wrong. Now, I understand, like, hey, here's a plea bargain, or if you didn't do it, let's go to trial. But like I said, the job of the attorney is to do that. It sucks. You are presumed innocent. But the reality of it is that you got to pay your own way. But if you can't, you can get court-appointed counsel. But basically, you have to be in custody for that to apply, or to be indigent out of custody, basically have no money, have no assets whatsoever. That's why you see, like, obviously Koberger, he got a whole team of attorneys because he was in custody. He's entitled to counsel at no expense. He had, what, 4 or 5 attorneys, I think, plus all the experts, investigators. It doesn't stop, right? But somebody has to pay for it. It's not like you just run out to the money tree. The state pays for it, the county pays for it. Those attorneys don't work for free, maybe at a reduced rate, but it is still, somebody's got to pay the bill. All right, so I hope that answers your question. You're on Gypsum Hill between Gypsum and Eagle. I believe that sounds about right. That's right, probably. Yep. Still pretty gorgeous, and I'm a little biased. I mean, I've lived in Colorado all my life. Not gonna lie, I'm ready to, a little change of scenery, but this is pretty gorgeous. This is probably the most beautiful drive. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but up here to the right, once again, watch over here. Watch over here to the right over here, right? There's going to be some properties up there on the hill. I don't know, it's going to be so far away. I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit, but I mean, there's a house up there on that hill, which is gorgeous, overlooking the valley there with the river running through it. I mean, just gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. And you got the red. Our little field trip. Only a few people are coming with us on our field trip, but hey, that's okay. It's almost like our own little personal chat. You need to move to the southeast, Scott. Well, Trish, I'm working on it. I told you my adopted home state is South Carolina. I was stationed down there years ago. Fell in love with it. All right, look at this. Look at this property over here. Look at this ranch. Okay, coming into view. Look at that. Is that not just gorgeous or what? It's got the property, the big barn, the big open area where they, do some ranching and some farming. Just beautiful. So yeah, the south would be a fine place to go. The lovely Miss Kristen has some second thoughts about it. She's worried about the humidity, something to do with her hair, but I always tell her she looks beautiful no matter what her hair looks like. And there's bugs. She's not a big fan of bugs. I'm like, well, you live and you spray for the bugs and they don't bother you. We have bugs here too in Colorado. Not as many bugs. We have snakes, but not as many snakes. Things swimming in the water. But I do love being near the water. Like I said, I grew up here, and maybe you just kind of take it for granted. But it is gorgeous. And when you drive here, like I said, I've been looking over here on this side of the road. I don't know if you can see this one. I mean, you got that over there, right? The outcrops and things like that. And then you got over here, with the river in between. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, this is gorgeous. It's a gorgeous country. sorry, it doesn't work on TV. I don't know if let me see if I flip it. Does it, if I flip the camera, orientation is locked. Okay, I gotta go back this way. All right. And that's what YouTube wants, is that way. Just taking our little drive. For those who joined us late or are just catching up, we had a court appearance in Pitkin County. Now, you may say, well, Scott, don't they have modern technology where you can appear via video, almost like a video conferencing? Yes, they do. And so, when everything kind of broke down, we said, we'll just enter plea not guilty. And we were on WebEx, and the court said, I won't accept a plea unless you show up here. I'm like, okay, Your Honor. Of course, like I said, I don't have the plane anymore, which would have been about a 20-minute flight. But it's a 3.5-hour drive each way. We were the first case called at 1:30. I was out of there by 1:45. I went back, did a little show. Frank's editing that. It may be up soon. I don't know. And I thought, well, I've thought about doing this before. We used to do it before, kind of video, like, oh, we're going to take a trip. We're going to go to a different courthouse. So here we are. Man, they can sure come close. I mean, the motorcycles that are passing by there. They must be heading up to Sturgis, is my guess. Or wherever, next town. Guess we don't really know, do we? So I drove up there 3.5 hours one way, hopefully 3.5 hours this way. Look at this house up on the hill. I don't know if you can see that. Pretty nice, right? I mean, pretty good view. Obviously now we're on the other side of the river. All right, I think I'm back. All right, I think I'm back. I think I left off. I don't know if you thought that semi or that U-Haul was coming over to get me. I thought they were too, but I got around them. Anyway, we're back. So anyway, it was those flock cameras that the cops were able to tell instantaneously that they had driven through the night, which means they must have been committing nefarious acts. And allegedly, maybe it turned out maybe they were, but yours truly got the case dismissed. So um, the whole flock camera thing, I know people are upset by that. That's a policy decision. It seems like the cities have to make if they want them, if the state wants them. Because remember, you have no expectation of privacy once you one of those sci-fi movies where they do, etc. And it's probably coming to that if it isn't already, based upon the cell phone data and everything that they have and they track. You have no expectation of privacy unless the law changes and says you own all of it, regardless of who collects it, and they can't sell it without your permission or access or get a warrant. I think it's here to stay, and there's been some movement in the Supreme Court on some of these things. Um, the Carpenter case was the one that said you have an expectation of privacy in your cell phone, and they're kind of slowly expanding that to say, hey, just because somebody else monitors you doesn't mean that the government just can get it because they want it. They got to have a warrant. They have to have a reason for it. But then if you sell it, like what's your expectation of privacy? So somebody says in Texas it's always just highway construction season. Well, that's the way it is here. Like I said, Glenwood Canyon, always construction. Vail Pass, this is what we're on right now, is Vail Pass, always construction, but always bad weather. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but right about here, we always get uh, there's snow and ice. I mean, it's just a sprinkle of rain right now, but it's fine. But there's something about it right here. But they're always doing construction, always, always, always. It's always slow. I seem to always come here at night when it's really icy and snowy, and there's always some jerk, that's driving, 80 miles an hour um, when he shouldn't be. And don't get me wrong, I like to drive fast, but you got to be smart for the conditions. So here we go. Here we go. Here we are, Vail Pass, and there's the rest area there. See if I can ask your question. Stay with Scott. We are almost to the top. We'll have service until we hit the valley in Summit. Well, I think we should have service until um, Eisenhower Tunnel, the top of the Continental Divide. We may lose it as I drive through there, but so that was the top of Vail Pass, and now we start our way down. Then we'll come in to the okay. So we hit the top of Vail Pass. As you can see, a little bit of rain here, but not a big deal. All good. Hopefully, you can see the mountains up there. Up there, there's no trees. That's what they call above the tree line. Gets the conditions are just so rough you can't do it. I don't know how big those are, but they're probably close to 14,000 feet. At least one of those up there. And if as you head down here, but if you're to head south of here, you could head to Leadville, where they have like the Leadville 100, like the road race where people race for 100 miles up at like 14,000 feet. A friend of mine's done that and actually finished it several times. I don't know how he does that. He's amazing. Incredible feat. And then we're going to come into Copper Mountain, Keystone, which is Summit County, and then we'll head up the hill to the top of the Continental Divide, which there's a tunnel up there. It's probably 2 miles long to get to the other side of the Continental Divide. Then we start our way back down. Then we go kind of back down to Denver. But in the winter time, I try to avoid the mountains because you have the ski people that come up. And what could take, for example, if we get down to Summit County, no, let me take that back. Yeah, Summit County, about an hour and a half drive from Denver. That could take you in the wintertime going either way, like 4 hours because there's so much traffic. And although they've been trying for many, many years on how to make it more efficient to get up to the mountains, they have failed miserably. And obviously, airplanes, it's kind of tough to fly in the mountains with the winter conditions, the winds, things like that. I think the latest plan is they think they want to do like light rail. At some point, they put in an HOV lane, but it's usually closed most of the time, only for winter. So yeah. Let me see if I don't know if I can put this on my dash here, if I can put navigation here. Here's the map here for I-70. So boom. Like I said, come out of Vail. You're in Summit County. Little if you're going to look for a winter, summer, property up in the mountains, I guess you say. It used to be people never came up here in the summertime, but because it was mud season, all the snow melted and there was nothing to do. But now they've turned it into, mountain biking, festivals, soccer or not soccer, golf, anything that you could do anywhere. Most of these communities, like Telluride, they've got a festival just about every week. You want a beer festival? Let's have it. You want a jazz festival? You want a Dorito festival? Let's have it. I mean, they come up with any reason to get people to come up. They got to do that to survive. But I'm just saying, it's changed a lot from when I was a kid, where you maybe went to the mountains in the summer to go camping because it was cooler when it got really hot, right? And when I grew up, we didn't have air conditioning in my house, so it's like, ooh, going to the mountains for a day is going to be less. It's going to be cooler. Yeah, that'd be nice. So I think it was 100 when we left Aspen. It's now 73 according to the car right now. 72, and I think it's supposed to be like 100 in Denver. But as you can see, it got a little overcast and cloudy coming through here. Well, getting a little bit of rain here. I don't know if you can see how tall those mountains are, but why is Scott driving to Idaho? He's not. He was in Aspen for a court appearance, and now we're driving home, and we put it on live just for the heck of it. Why not? I think we've had a good little conversation. I've been trying to read some of the comments here. I am looking. Let's see. I'm looking for when you can't read license plates. Saving letters. I know there's stuff out there. I've actually seen it where you can put something over the license plates where they can't read it. And I don't know about in your state, but in Colorado, like this car in front of us, you can't really tell, they're kind of faded, but they were white with green, like mountains and things like that in the background. But now they want everybody to get these license plates that are like red and black and big white letters in the background. And I was a little suspicious, like, why? Why would they do that? Doesn't really, takes away from the colorful Colorado license plates that we have. Like I said, with the white with the green top, little mountains on the top, and then you can get specialty plates, right? But then they're going to these red and black with the big white letters. I'm like, I wonder why that is. Looked into it. Why? Because they can read the license plates better. The license plates readers, yes. And you thought they just wanted to be, create new colors for the license plates just because. No, there was something nefarious about it all the time. So they can track you everywhere you go, even if you do nothing wrong. Let's see if I'm gonna, it's kind of a twisty road here, so I'll try to keep my eye on the road. I'll see if I can't do that. But no, Scott is not in Idaho. It just looks like it. He's in Colorado, Summit County as of right now, just past Copper Mountain area, coming up on Silverthorne, where Frisco and Breckenridge are. Breckenridge, nice, former mining town, which most of these towns are old mining towns. Sometimes you can see up here on the side of the mountains where it looks like, wow, it's weird. Like, why are all those rocks the way they came down like that? Well, usually those are old mines, and people, they would dig it out and they would just dump the rocks down the hill. Sometimes you can still buy like these old mines, the mining claims and things like that. I mean, you never really mine it unless you want to go do it yourself, which would be difficult to get to and what have you. And probably you couldn't afford to do the environmental compliance. But you can still buy them. You can still see them for sale if you Google them. Mining mines for sale, things like that. Um, so I said, past Copper Mountain. This here is Summit County. Keystone is Breckenridge is far off to the right. Let me see if I can turn this. Breckenridge would be way over that way. And we're coming up down in Frisco, whereas where you go to Keystone Ski Resort. And then off to the right over here, I'll show it to you, is Lake Dillon, which is actually owned by the city and county of Denver for part of their water supplies. Denver was actually really smart back in the 20s, where they needed mountain areas are mostly Denver water. And I'll show you. And I spent a lot of time up here back in my younger days, particularly in college, when the former Mrs. Reisch used to have a house up here with their family. So that's Dillon Reservoir. As you can see, it's pretty low. Usually the little island out there, you probably can't see. I'll try to get it up a little higher. Those little islands out there, you couldn't see those. Those are underwater. It's pretty low because it didn't get very much snow this year. And so obviously it means there's less runoff to go into the reservoir. And, they haven't rationed water yet, but they're telling people to be smart. But of course, everybody who is like, oh my God, we're all going to die. We're all going to die. No, we're not going to die. This happens. Like I said, I've lived in Colorado all my life, other than when I was in the military. And I remember as a kid, although look at this view coming into Frisco here, we had droughts and we had times where it wouldn't stop snowing and you wish there was going to be a drought. Um, and so, it is what it is, I guess. It's called nature. And nature can be cruel. And you don't mess with Mother Nature. Okay? I learned that um, when I learned to fly. You don't mess with Mother Nature. You have to respect Mother Nature. No matter how well you think you prepared, no matter how well built you think what's going on, Mother Nature will twist you up, slap you around like you couldn't even imagine. Okay? And no matter what you do, it's not going to matter. Mother Nature's going to do her thing. Right? Look at Chernobyl, right? Mother Nature's coming back. You can kill it for a little while, but it's coming back. Uh, no matter what we do, Mother Nature will take over. All right, so this is Frisco, Silverthorne here, Dillon. Like I said, if you get off this road here and you follow it up, it takes you over to Keystone Resort. Then, like I said, you got Dillon Reservoir here as well. And like I said, you spent a lot of time up here in college. The former spouse, her parents or her family had a house up here, so we would spend a lot of time and come up here when it was hot in the city in the summer, and things like that. And her grandmother lived up here as well, so I used to be able to do this in my sleep. All right, so here comes the good part, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Hold on. We are heading up to the top of the divide. All right, the Continental Divide. Big mountain range that divides the continent. We're going to shoot up here at the top. We'll get into the Eisenhower Tunnel. Hopefully, we'll still have a feed. But if you've never been to Colorado, you know, this is pretty cool. All right. I still like it. It's really a lot of fun to do when you have a really fast car and you can just go flying up the left-hand lane here. Not that we would go above the speed limit, but you know what I'm saying. We would go really fast up to the speed limit in the left lane, and you know, it's a lot of fun. Not to digress way too much, but I used to have this BMW sedan. Got rid of it, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, and fastest car I've ever driven. It would just fly up this thing, but it had like these racing wheels on it. Man, you hit the smallest little speed bump or pothole, and it would blow out the tire. I spent more on tires than I spent on gas. It was crazy. Because Denver roads really suck. Colorado roads in general suck. They are not very well maintained. They always try to blame it on the weather, but it's not. They just don't maintain it. Even though we have a really high gas tax, they always find something else to send it to. Anyway, as you can see, there's a big drop off over here on the right-hand side. I don't know if you can see it very well, but on the other side of that guardrail, it pretty much drops off. You may be able to see it here. It's a pretty good stretch up here. Yeah, I was looking at the comment here. Yeah, it was one of the worst. I mean, it almost got no snow. I mean, they got a couple of good dumps in various parts on the western slope, but even some parts that usually get really dumped on didn't get what they usually expected. And Denver almost got nothing. I don't even know if I maybe got the snow shovel out a couple of times, and it was just the dusting. You know, and as the old people used to always say, when it snowed or rained, we could use the moisture. Everybody's becoming that old neighbor. Well, it's raining, it's snowing, but we can use the moisture. All right, We're getting closer. Yeah, we'll probably keep the connection. I think I may lose it going through the tunnel. Although, like I said, we're on Wi-Fi right now because of a Starlink, but we may be able to keep the 5G going through. But I will have to wait and see. Probably lose you for about 2 minutes while I go through the tunnel, but we'll see. And then it'll pick up on the other side. And then it's downhill. See, this is all uphill. I don't know if you can see this. There's the, it's all straight downhill from there. Oh, he got over. All right, we're getting close. Like I said, I've sat on this hill many a time when it's snowing and dark and barely creeping up the hill here. There's a truck stalled or something. As you can see, you're getting above the tree line here. Very few trees. And on the other side of this is Loveland Ski Resort, um, literally on the top of the Continental Divide. That was the one as a poor kid that we would go ski all the time as a kid because it had the cheapest fees, lift ticket fees, and but it was cold. Man, it was cold, and because you get all the wind from there. So all right, here we go. Kind of slowing down a little bit. Here we are coming into the Eisenhower Tunnel here at the top of I-70 Continental Divide. Here we go. Eisenhower Edwin C. Johnson Memorial Tunnel. Elevation 11,158 feet. So 1979, the tunnel was feet. See if it stays on. If we lose signal, seems to be working. Boom. Now, we're not that far away from coming into Denver, maybe 20 minutes or so. Okay. And when we get to the top of Floyd Hill overlooking Denver, you're going to be like, wow, that's really cool. Great view of the city. It's going to be nice. Okay. Right now, it's just a little, mountain driving. As you can see, this is a major highway, major interstate here, 2 lanes. That's it. Now, obviously, you're a little constricted by mountains and rivers and things like that. But, it's been 2 lanes since, what, the 50s or something. Um, and they never got around to it. Although you'll see some construction as we get closer to Denver, where they're going to try to make it a little better. But they've been building it for 10 years. I mean, it never stops and it never gets done. It really makes you wonder how those big construction things like the Hoover Dam, would it get built in like 4 years or something? But yet it takes 10 years to make an extra, lane on the highway. Like, it really makes you wonder, how did we, you know, get to this point where everything takes so long? I don't know. It's a nice drive. Like I said, I think it's 102 degrees in Denver. It's 79 where we are, but we're coming down from the top of the Continental Divide, which was 13,000 feet. Okay, I didn't know that the Johnson Tunnel, which is the one going from east to west, is longer than the one from the Eisenhower Tunnel. Didn't know that. Good fact to know. But see, you learn something new every day. That's the thing about it. I love the internet. We're going to grade 63%. Let's see. There's Pod. Enjoy the drive. It is a good little drive, man. I mean, it's not exactly the most efficient way to spend my day, but I can think of worse things I could be doing. I could be doing jail visits. And that's probably one of the worst parts about the job, you know, of criminal defense is a lot of time your clients are in custody. And yes, they can pick up the phone, but then other people hear it. And now at least you're starting to get some stuff where you can email uh, inmates. But once again, is it attorney-client privilege? Anything they do? I mean, it's just one more thing that the government turns over on a client's case. Now, it was always rule of thumb, if your client was charged with murder, that they would always listen to his phone calls, monitor his mail. Now it's emails, phone calls, and it's so easy to download phone calls. And everybody thinks that nobody's listening. Everybody's listening. Back in the old days, it would be difficult to anyway drive into Denver every day for it, which wasn't that big of a deal. But it got so cold. This little lake up here to the right-hand side, um, it freezes. It freezes in the. And I know some people are like, "Well, that's no big deal, right? Lakes freeze all the time." Yeah, if you're like in Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan or something, yeah. But when you're in Colorado and it's thick enough to race cars and stuff on it, it's getting pretty freaking cold. Okay, and I wouldn't want to be there. So anyway, all right. So that's the lake that freezes, and of course they go fishing on it, but they have all kinds of racing on it as well. Um, but even right today, I mean, you can probably see, people windsurfing or something on it, kayaking. It's gonna be cold. It's gonna be cold, freezing cold. Oh, my car is telling me You need to take a break. It's ridiculous. I got this new car, and it's been in the shop twice already. Um, they had to replace the seal on the window, and they're going to replace it again or do something with it tomorrow. And I've only had it for, I don't know, a month and a half, and it literally was like we were in a wind tunnel. But and it's like the car is such a nanny car. They probably got sued at some point. Somebody probably left their kid in the car or their dog in the car, and somebody probably sued and said, "Hey, on this fancy screen, couldn't you add a reminder? Don't forget the kids or something." So literally, when you stop and get out of the car, it reminds you, don't forget to remove, small children, pets. It comes up on screen on the screen here. Look at the screen, right? I don't know if you can see that, but that's the screen, right? Shows you the map, shows everything else, but it gives you warning signs. And now it just gave me a warning sign, said, "Hey, you've been driving for a little bit." We've been driving since, how long we've been doing this? Does it say? I can't tell. I don't know. From whenever we started this, we started driving. The car's like, "You've been driving for a while. Would you like to pull over and take a break?" Nope, nope. I'm good. I'm good. We're almost to Empire and Granby, or the turns to Granby, uh, to Winter Park ski resort. Take up that way. Done many cases up at Granby. Got one pending up there. Investigation has been going on forever. But no news is good news when it comes to those types of things. Because generally, if it was clear and obvious, they would have charged by now. Let's see here. That screen, that's a huge screen for the car. Can you turn off notifications? You probably could turn off the notifications. I've turned off half the bells and whistles on this thing, and I just don't need it. I don't need it. But it'll basically drive yourself. Stay in the lane, put on the auto cruise. It'll drive it. I mean, it's pretty fancy. But these screens just keep getting bigger and bigger. A friend of mine has a Cadillac Escalade where it literally goes across the whole dash. And you can have it has like your Google apps and everything show up there, and it's ridiculous, man. And I'm telling you, I like cars. I like new cars. I like old cars, but it's just kind of ridiculous. And years ago, you would buy a car. I remember like buying a BMW, right? You bought the BMW because it had all the safety features, had all the bells and whistles, and you're like, okay, I'm paying a little extra for all these bells and whistles. Well, now I don't care what car you drive, all those bells and whistles of 20 years ago that you paid extra for are standard on the most basic car around. And you're like, what am I paying extra for a BMW or something like that? You're not. They're all the same. So they just got to keep adding more and more little gadgets to the whole thing, so that you can say you're getting more. I mean, I don't know. I still like, I had the Porsche. I got rid of that a while back. Just didn't drive it that much, and but I still got my old Ferrari, my 340 with gated shifter, manual transmission. That is the most fun car to drive ever. You get to drive. It doesn't have power steering because it's like a race car. And it's way, driving is meant to be stiff suspension. I mean, I don't know. I get it. I like the new stuff too, but the old stuff, man, that was good. Man, it was good. Oh yeah, they got cameras in the dash to watch your face. Yeah, if you're dozing off, take your hands off the steering wheel. It'll tell you that. It's ridiculous all the stuff the car can do. And of course, let's not forget, like all the black boxes that exist now too. I mean, you are constantly monitored. You know, it used to be, oh, it had a black box in the car. Well, now they all have black boxes, right? Like the Shirilla case, Mackenzie Shirilla case, black box can tell you didn't take the foot off the gas, you know, until after you hit the building. I mean, that's good stuff, good data, right? Um, Hopefully, you know, to get the truth. Now the question is, what, you know, was her foot pressed down because, you know, she was having this medical event that she claimed she was having, or was she trying to kill herself and her boyfriend and her friend? Well, the judge, once again, a judge alone, big mistake, big, huge, huge mistake. Um, you know, found guilty, 15 to life. You know, and some of these people that get all the notoriety and fame, some of them are just, they don't seem like very good people. They're just not nice people, very centered about themselves. Um, and I get it, they want to get out of prison, but like you kind of did something to get there where, you know, you got charged, you got convicted, appeals, and I understand her attorneys missed the appeal state. Um, you know, she'll probably get some relief at some point by someone. But the reality of it is, and this, whether you're talking, you know, the Koberger case, the Watts case, depending on how things go, um, with the Clancy case in Massachusetts, right? There needs to be some sort of finality. You get the automatic review, you know, but at a certain point, it's like, we got to stop. We got to stop. It's got to end. There's got to be finality. And, but it just never seems like that's the way it turns out, right? All right, Idaho Springs. Nope, we're not in Idaho. It's just called Idaho Springs. I think they have some hot springs here too. Good little Bojo's Pizza has been here forever. I remember going as a kid, going skiing, and we stopped in Idaho Springs to get pizza. Um, Now it's just kind of a big old truck stop kind of thing. Few homes, nothing, you know, nothing fancy. Like I say, it gets cold up here, really cold. Um, it's like it's always in the shade. You know, whether it's because the trees or if the sun is out, even in the afternoon, the sun goes down, and it's always just cold and dark. I don't know, just anyway. Got this little windmill, not windmill, water wheel over here on the right hand side that freezes in the wintertime, and people do ice climbing on that. Um, but we're getting close to Denver. We're getting close. Let me see if I can keep this. Oh, express only. Yep, more bells and whistles on the car definitely means more and more issues. And I'll be honest with you, I've had a Land Rover. I had my old Land Rover that I love to take that. I go fly fishing in it. I got my fly fishing racks on the top. Don't have to worry about getting something muddy. When the great apocalypse hits, you know, that's going to be the rally vehicle, right? I'm just joking, but that's it. And that car will go just about anywhere. Climb a mountain. It's great. Climb the side of a mountain. Um, anyway, years ago, I was looking at cars. I was going to get, you know, something else. Anyway, looked at a Range Rover. Didn't do it. Um, I always had BMWs forever, probably last 25 years. I've had some sort of BMW. And I got rid of my 550, um, which was the fastest car I've ever driven in my life. I mean, it was like dual turbo, 560 horsepower. It was amazingly fast. But like I said, every time you hit a pothole, like, or even just a little bump in the road, you would blow out the tires because they were like racing tires. And it was frankly just uncomfortable. You know, like I said, I like driving the Ferrari, but I only do that, a couple of times. But in and out, getting out of other cars, like, my God, it was so tough to get in and out of. You felt like you were flopping into it. It was like a race car. But anyway, another little tunnel here. Let's see if we can keep our star. Now we're out. Okay, Hidden Valley, another little ski resort there. Now this is all the construction that they've been doing forever and forever and forever. Okay, let's see what the temperatures. We're back to 90 degrees. It's 90 degrees out down here. We're getting closer to Denver, but still cooler. Just remember, for every 1,000 feet of elevation, usually it's about 4 degrees cooler. Little flying tip, but remember that. Laminate it. Take it to the field. Could save your life someday. Every 1,000 feet, 4 degrees cooler. Just remember that. Unless, of course, it's an inversion. But all right, we're getting Golden, or we're getting close to Golden. That's what the kind of you go the back way into Golden, which is a basically suburb on the western side of Denver. So here we are, as you can see. We're coming out of the mountains. We're coming down. We're on I-70, and here's some construction that's starting here. They've been building this forever. First, they built the road to get over there. Then they built the big pile of dirt, and then they moved the dirt, and then they started building stuff to put on it. But anyway, I think there's going to be a big highway pass over there instead of this. Um, we'll see. Like I said, you can see more construction over here as we come around. I mean, they're making progress finally, right? We got at least got a bridge up here, part of a bridge. Um, but like I said, they've been building it for years. And you wonder, like, how did we ever get anything built like in World War II or in the 30s? The Hoover Dam. I think that was like 4 or 5 years, right? They've been building for like 10. My God, just so damn slow. You think if it was really emergency or let's get this done, man, but they don't. It just takes forever. Let's knock this out. I don't know if you can see this over here off to the left-hand side. This is really interesting if you take a look at that. That's a strip mining right there. Just the heartbeat away from Denver. Those beautiful mountains. There's strip mining, but I guess it's their property, their land. They can do with it what they want, but kind of leaves an ugly looking scar to it. But like I said, it's their property, their minerals, so they should be able to get it out. As you can see, it's a little cloudy afternoon in Colorado, with 50% chance of rain, with thunderstorms like in the afternoon. All right, stay there, buddy. So anyway, yeah, I got this car, and it's not been great. And it's a Range Rover, but not really impressed. Really not impressed. I just should have stayed with my old Land Rover, uh, but I was getting worried it was going to die, and I didn't want to have something where I'm out on the road somewhere and it die. So it's okay if I'm going on a fishing trip, but that wouldn't work when I absolutely positively have to get there. That's right, I'm piloting something different than my airplane. I don't have an airplane anymore. I'm so bummed. I went to a air show out at the airport that my hangar is at, and a friend of mine was there. Invited everybody, and we, you know, watched the air show. It wasn't anything big. It was small time, and had food and barbecue and things like that. Of course, everybody wants to know, when are you going to get a new plane, Scott? Are you going to get another one? It's like, yeah, I want to, but it just depends. All right, so coming up here on Floyd Hill, this is where semis lose their brakes quite a bit. Pretty steep, and you can come flying down here. And when we get to the bottom of it, kind of boom, right there down in Golden. You got to be careful because the cops will get you for speeding, really bad. Basically, we are coming out of the mountains. This is what they refer to as the foothills. So still green, and we've been getting some rain because obviously we don't want forest fires. So coming in here to Jefferson County. Jefferson County was where Columbine kids were prosecuted. Obviously, Klebold and God, I can't remember his name all of a sudden. Was it Klebold and Reinhardt, I think, something like that? Klebold and Dylan. Anyway, can't remember that, but that's it was Jefferson County. They had another one not too far from here, from a place where I go fishing by. Once again, just some lunatic doing something stupid, harming innocent people, completely uncalled for. So, but I am going to say, pretty impressed with the Starlink. We've had a couple of spots through the tunnels where we've had issues, but as long as I have clear skies above, man, we're streaming. I don't know what the quality is like on the feed, but I'm pretty impressed. The fact, think about it, we are live streaming going 71 miles per hour, 72 on I-70. That's pretty amazing in a car, and not a whole lot of delay. That's pretty darn impressive. Um, that's why I should have done it when I had the plane still. See if we could test out the Starlink and go live. That would have been really cool. But maybe soon. Anyway, maybe we'll get a plane soon. We'll have to wait and see. Um, you know, I'll be honest with you, the last one was a very poor financial decision. Probably the worst financial decision I ever made. Um, that maintenance on those, not to mention, I can't talk about it because of an NDA, confidentiality agreement, but let's just say there's some shops out there that aren't as, honest as they need to be. Let's just put it that way. Oh, now we're getting some rain, big old raindrops. You can try to clean my windshield. It's starting to rain, but getting those bugs. All right, here comes the afternoon thunderstorm. Pretty normal, but hey, we need the moisture. Obviously, you got to be careful. Don't want a hydroplane out here on the highway. That would be bad. Which is a real possibility the way the highway is kind of improved. It's not too bad. There's not enough rain to probably do that, but All right, so we're gonna go up to the top here, top of the hill here. Probably won't be able to see the city because it's raining so hard. Gotta go down that little hill. May not be able to see the city as we come over the hill because of the rain. But who knows? Another 2 miles, it could be completely not raining and dry. Lookout Mountain, getting close to Buffalo Bill. You know, Buffalo Bill, the old frontier western guy. His grave site is up here, near Golden. Oh, my car's reminding me there's a rest stop 6 miles away. Isn't that so thoughtful of them? No, ridiculous. Mother Karini Shrine. See the big homes up here on the hills. These are the people that they move up here, and then when there is a forest fire or something, and they're always the first to complain. I can't believe our house burned down. I mean, sure, it was built in the forest. Most public services. I don't understand why insurance is so expensive. Because they wanted the view, they wanted to be away from everybody, which also means you have to live with the dangers of what you want. Oop, I can smell some brakes burning. Not mine, probably this semi up here. Occasionally we had a really bad case. It was the governor. The guy went. It was the guy. It was a driver hired. Brakes failed. Plowed into 4 cars. I think he killed 4 people and injured a bunch of others. Got basically a life sentence. The governor said, "Oh, that was too harsh of a sentence. Too harsh of a sentence," and commuted his sentence to like 12 or 15 years or something like that, which of course immediately got him out, and then he was deported. But he didn't have a license. The trucking company was not legit. Like I said, 4 people got killed because he came down here, lost his brakes because he didn't know what he was doing mountain driving, and literally traffic was stopped, and he plowed into a bunch of cars on the highway. Horrible situation. I think several of them were burned to death. It was just horrible, horrible. His attorney, who I knew at the time, I know him. I don't know what he thought he was doing, but he went to trial because the guy is like, "Oh, it's too much time," or "I got immigration consequences," etc. So he didn't. Thought he had to go to trial. He was going to win. He wasn't going to go down on all these, reckless manslaughters. Oh, yep, he did. And then, of course, there's, "Oh, this is so unfair. How dare anybody send anybody there? You're just being hard on him because he didn't have the proper licenses and stuff." Yeah, and he killed like 4 people. So, yeah. All right, so it stopped raining. So now we're coming into the Denver area here. We can either take I-25, maybe we'll take 6th Avenue. Maybe we'll take 6th Avenue, give you a quick little tour of Denver. Some not great spots as we head in to some, nicer spots. is really blown. We'll go down 6th Avenue here. So, as you can see, we're out of the mountains, and now we're in the suburbs of Denver. That little plateau, little thing over there, these homes over here, that's kind of the last of basically foothills. And then we'll be in the plains here shortly. There's the Jefferson County Courthouse over there on the side. I don't know if you can see that. You probably can't see that. Sorry. Anyway, when they first built that, it was such a fancy of a building. Everybody called it the Taj Mahal because all the county commissioners thought they needed a big fancy building. And of course, they've been able to expand on it, but who cares? Whatever. Oh yeah, there it is. Somebody talks about it. Yeah, Nurse Chronicles. Yeah, I was on the road the day of the accident. Brakes were burned out at Vale Pass. Yeah, let me get on 6th Avenue here. Boom. Boom. Getting to 6th Avenue. This will take us right into Denver. Hopefully we won't run into any traffic. Can't believe it's already 5:30. Man. 5:30 in Denver. Da-da. Now this bridge up here is another little boondoggle they engaged in called light rail. I don't know what this bridge cost, but I'm sure Governor Newsom could make it more expensive than we paid for it. But these trains basically ride empty unless there is a sporting event downtown. Nobody rides them during the day. They really don't. Nobody goes downtown. Nobody's in offices downtown. Now it's completely raining. Normally you can see downtown Denver, the skyline from here, but with the rain, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Let me take off my sunglasses and put on my spectacles. Yeah, so Crime Nurse Chronicles. Yeah, that was a horrible accident. Yeah, so if you were just there, I mean, if you were just right there before that, that's the scary thing. I mean, you just never know when your time is up, so to speak. And, you may have been delayed a couple of minutes. That could have been you. I mean, that's just a scary thing about, life and everything like that. So, got to make sure you live life to the fullest because you never know when it may end. And you don't want to have any regrets by the time that it happens. So anyway, so this is 6th Avenue. Going over there. It's got like 3 trains, and I bet if we counted all the people in there, if we could, my guess is there's maybe 20 people max. Now, I hate to sound, but that's just reality. Okay, I'm not sure why, but my GPS started chatting to me there. I'm not sure why that happened. Anyway, so there we go. Wadsworth Boulevard here. All right, well, I want to thank everybody for sticking it out with us as we drove back from Pitkin County. For those who have, that's great. And for those that maybe joined us late, some wondering, why the hell is Scott going live driving his car? Well,
Just wanted to show the great scenery of the great state of Colorado. And now you can see, I don't know if you can see these potholes, but welcome. We're in Denver. We're in Denver. The potholes are here. And the bad driving begins. Not my bad driving. It's everybody else's bad driving, I assure you. This guy's coming up behind us, passing us. I mean, I'm going above the speed limit, but clearly he needs to get wherever he's going much faster. And don't get me wrong, I like to, use the lead foot myself, but there's a time and place for it. Who knows, maybe he's late for dinner. Do you ever drive by Chris Watt's home? Yes, we have. We've actually done videos, obviously when that first took place. That is maybe a 15-minute drive from my office and the Crime Talk studios. It's been a minute. My last recollection was that they were finally going to sell the house. Because remember, they were going to build a park or something. Maybe that was it. Then they're going to sell it. I don't know if you can see it over here, but you can kind of see the skyline off to the left there. Hopefully you can see that. Let's see if we can get the skyline in there. There it is. Right? I think we got it now. We'll be able to see that more when we get a little closer to heading into downtown. 6th Avenue is, it's 6th Avenue. Colorado, Denver is set up basically on a grid type system where you start at 0 and you go north, 1 through 160th. And then you have, at south of 0, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for the address. It's just some places are set up different. Weird. Colorado, if you look at it from a big old map, downtown Denver, it's a big grid turned on its side, and then you have the big grid basically for the rest of the numbering system. So it's easy to figure out. You're on 6th Avenue. You got a 0 running north-south. You got east and west. Keeps going. Pretty easy to actually get around Denver. See, now that's what I don't like. They just passed this law that motorcycles in Colorado can drive through the middle of the lanes. I know they do that in lots of states like California and things like that. But man, it is so dangerous. God, it must be getting old, right? But really is. Look at the way the guy's zigging in between the lane like that. Just crazy. And I used to have a motorcycle. And that guy may be a great motorcyclist, but there's a lot of idiots out on the road. And for him to assume that they're not going to be freaked out when he comes driving by, yeah. Little American flag there. Who doesn't love a little America? I think that's at Robinson's Dairy. It was like the oldest dairy in town. I think one of the two Robinson brothers remain. I think they're both in their 90s. I met one of the brothers. I met them both, but met one time where he got to spend some time. Still raining. Now here's off to the side over here. You can see it. There's the Denver skyline. Let's see if we can get that there. That big tall building, the big white one, if I'm getting it right, you can see it there. The big white one, that's Republic Plaza. I used to have an office in there on the 53rd floor. I love that office. I loved it. I loved it. Other than the cost of rent, it was crazy. The big tall white one there. But it was so high, at 53rd floor. There was only 56 floors, and you would literally be standing there, and helicopters would be flying by below you. Let's see if I can. It's then the other one is the cash register building. That was the Valentine's or Father's Day massacre. We've talked about that. Murder in the bank vault. Interesting story. Former Denver cop was accused, went to trial. Death penalty case, was found not guilty of quadruple murder of killing the bank guards at the United Bank building, which is what they refer to as the cash register building. Let's see if we can see that there. Yeah, that one right there. That's the cash. Looks like a cash register on top. Anyway, that was the bank at the time. Still a bank there, I do believe. But it used to be some also prime real estate for a lot of law firms, engineering, CPAs. Now, they're practically giving that rental space away. These buildings that were selling for hundreds of millions of dollars, now they're like, oh, 26 million. I mean, there's a couple. It's like, my God, if you could actually turn it into something and lease it, it'd be great. But it's just crazy, the loss in value on all these properties. Oh, my car's telling me there's a photo radar 50 feet ahead of me. Be careful. Oh, just took pictures. Did you see that flash? I don't know if you saw the flash, but there's one of those photo radar things over there. Right by where it says Denver law, speed limit 20 miles per hour, except as posted. It's got the little camera literally looking right at us. Anyway, so now we begin with what most people are familiar with in Denver: slow traffic. Bad roads, slow traffic. Yeah, nope. I saw the comment about the motorcyclist. Nope, he's shooting the gap. That's not illegal. They changed the law to allow people to do that. Like I said, I used to have a motorcycle a long time ago, but I didn't like driving. There's a bunch of idiots out on the road. I always thought I was a pretty safe motorcyclist, but all the other idiots would just do it. And the other thing is these little electric bikes. Biggest pain in the ass ever. God, I sound like an old man, don't I? And now they're warning, because we have all these young kids getting hit by cars on these electric motorcycles. They think that they're evil, and they're flying around and running stop signs and red lights, and they're getting hit. And the parents are like, why aren't you watching out for our little babies on their little electric bikes? Well, you may be able to buy your kid a $3,000 to $5,000 electric bike, but apparently you can't buy him common sense. So here's Denver Health, which is part of obviously the hospital here. That's where they got a big trauma center there. If you get shot, stabbed, they're probably going to bring you there. If you don't have any money, they're probably going to bring you there. And the coroner's office used to be down here, but they've since moved. They've basically moved to a warehouse district where the coroners have built this fancy new building. They got, I got a tour there. We were interviewing the coroner for a homicide case, obviously. And he was the chief medical examiner at the time. And he's like, hey, would you like a tour? I'm like, we'd love a tour. Absolutely. So we got to see, all the different rooms that they have, all the refrigeration that they have. You don't want to die as a John Doe or a Jane Doe. They'll basically bury you, but when you get around to it. And I have told everybody that I know and I love, and I will tell you all this too, okay? If for some reason I die, Please do an autopsy on me. All right. All the lovely Miss Kristen, my children know no autopsies. Okay. I don't think people really appreciate what goes on in an autopsy till you've seen one and what they do to you. I mean, don't need you cracking my chest, taking all my insides out, slicing and dicing me up. Don't need you taking off the top of my scalp, the top of my head, my cranium there, taking off the insides and slicing and dicing everything there either. Don't know. If I die by some unnatural means, you can probably figure it out, right? If I die of old age, I figured it out. Don't need to know, okay? It's just terrible. I think Patrick Clancy, question, you two bad actors. I think Patrick Clancy was more focused on business than his wife and dealings with, maybe even had an affair. Now, I don't know anything about any extracurricular activities that he may have been taking place in. But yeah, it seems like he was focused on business. And, kind of talked about this the other day on the live program last Tuesday night, which we'll be doing again tomorrow. But, really the thing amounts to is, I remember my first son came last year of law school. It was a big surprise. Like, wow. Didn't see that one coming, right? But what are you going to do? You can't send it back, right? Then my other daughter came. I'm in the military. 3 days. We're driving out to Quantico, Virginia for the basic school. And, then you spend 6 months playing infantry officer, learn how to become an infantry officer. Then they send you to Naval Justice School and you pack up again. You're focused on, learning, perfecting your trade, and you got 2 kids. And, we had the privilege, fortunate enough, that she didn't have to work. And frankly, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to work when you had 2 kids and the daycare cost, more than what she was going to make. So I get it. It's tough. And my guess is, Lindsay Clancy probably thought that Patrick wasn't helping enough. He's thinking, hey, man, I get it, but you're staying at home. You're the mom. Why, I'm trying to work to, keep the house, 3 kids. We're down to 1 salary. I mean, and all the stuff that comes with new kids and everything like that. And, what most people don't realize is that it is, and yeah, don't forget in the comments, like I said, she was drugged up as hell, trying to help out. Her parents had come. I thought it was interesting, well, she was getting better. We thought she was getting better, and he probably thinks, oh, I'm doing everything around here. I'm helping out. I'm working full time. And she's got the blues. Boo-hoo, right? So I doubt it was much of a help, which kind of goes to, was it psychosis? Bunch of drugs. I get it. But if you're, like I said, depression, if it's just depression, that's what the jury's going to have to decide. And like I said, I've watched most of the trial, and, it could go either way. Part of me is like, yeah, good fact for the prosecution. She was fine. She's functioning. Then, of course, today the psychiatrist is saying that it is, what's the word I'm looking for? She could go into the psychosis and she would be fine, right? So the jury's going to have to decide. I, wouldn't envy them, but, somebody's got to have to make a decision. It's going to be their collective judgment as a community. Was it murder, or was it, not guilty by reason of insanity, this temporary psychosis? But then you hear the stuff about, yeah, she was fine. And, my gosh, the first time she can speak is, hey, can I see my lawyer? Right? Boy, isn't it amazing how that psychosis just immediately went away when I, failed jumping out the window of harming myself, right? Obviously she harmed herself, but not in the way that she was looking for. And that's going to be the prosecution's argument. Ladies and gentlemen, she was fine. Okay, she lost it. She had a moment. She wound up killing her kids, and then she wound up wanting to throw herself out the window after she cut herself, right? But guess what? She was completely fine after that. It was a psychosis miracle. And that's what the prosecution is going to take. And I get, he's taking a lot of vacations while she's battling severe mental illness to taking care of the children. I get it. I mean, I don't know if it's vacations or work, but the reality of it is, I don't know. Obviously, she went to a psychiatrist. They're giving her medications. He thinks she's dealing with it. She's probably saying, oh, I'm doing great. I'm fine. Oh, by the way, I think I may harm the children. Big red flag. Some jurisdictions, and hey, maybe they should expand it. These unique prosecution theories that people come up with. Let's charge the parents. Well, why not charge the spouse? What inside did you miss? You should have known. No, because our system of justice has always dealt with the person who commits the crime. And, so you can't, listen, there's probably faults, like anytime something like this happens, anytime there's a divorce, right? They got divorced. They're probably, listen, you got 2-3 kids running around, young, 8-month-old. That's full-time care. She's going back, trying to be the professional, mom, perfect mom, super mom. That's a lot of freaking pressure on moms these days. To be the super mom, work, take care of 3 kids, get them to other doctor's appointments, get them to the, ballet class, the tumbling class, learn the piano, and all the moms are comparing themselves to one another, and, they're fine. Why am I not fine? It is a tragic case. But like I said, just because you're having a really bad day, I remember my mother, who I look back now and think she totally was like bipolar. She would come home, didn't think anybody was helping out, and lack of better term, she would just lose her shit. And things are flying and things are going everywhere. Thank God she didn't harm anybody, but what if? So, and that's the question. Did she just lose her stuff and figured, screw it, I'm done with everything? Or was it truly psychosis? I don't know. We're going to have to continue to watch and wait and see for sure. The prosecution looks like Tweedledee and Tweedledum, especially the ones with the giant eyebrows. I don't know. I think the prosecution, they're moving along pretty well. Whether you don't like them or not, or you think that another criminal case, but the reality of it is, the DAs are charged with doing their job. Take out the psychosis, right? The mental defense. Nobody gets a free pass for killing 3 kids. That's just reality. That's the DA's job. What are they gonna say? Well, she was having a really bad day. Yeah, I know, she was seeing a psychiatrist too. We don't think she was psychotic, but we're just going to let her go on about her way. Feel really bad. She, jumped out the window, broke her back, paralysis, quadriplegic, all that good stuff. I get it, but you can't kill 3 people and get a complete pass unless you have an actual defense. It's not like it's self-defense. She's going with an affirmative defense of, yeah, I did it, but I was psychotic. And if she's not psychotic, then she's just a murderer, right? That's the reality of it. And whether people think, like I said, somebody said, there should be, aren't there other crimes enough? Aren't there other crimes they could prosecute in Massachusetts? Prosecutor may be unlikable. I get it. I deal with lots of unlikable prosecutors. But it doesn't mean the facts aren't on their side, right? If you really want to be you want to challenge, you become a criminal defense attorney. Prosecutors are easy. So what happened next? What happened next? I got all the resources of the state. I got the experts. I got the cops, right? Tell us what happened on this day. What did you see when you arrived? What'd you do then? And then what happened? try getting somebody off of a homicide case on an NGRI. That's a challenge. It's a lot easier to just say, hey, she admits she did it, so let's just cut to the chase, right? So, but I actually think the prosecutors, man, their questioning's been really good. They have been really focused, moving the case along. We've all been there and watched trials where the DA's just asked the same question over and over again, not very articulate, and it is brutal. Yeah, she asked about a lawyer before she asked for her family. Now, as I understood the testimony, she was able to write on a little pad, but I don't think she mentioned lawyer or anything like that at that time. The family was kept outside, to be fair, as I understand it, because she was in custody. She didn't get any visitors, and I've seen that before too. I had a client that got shot by the police, and they were going to charge him. I could get in to see him because I was his lawyer, even though he was, on all kinds of machines and whatever. Family was kept out because he was in custody. And so that doesn't surprise me as well. I'm not justifying her killing the kids, but he was so neglectful. I get it, but hell, if being a bad husband and father were a crime, they probably would lock up most men. And I get it, and maybe he should have tried to do more. He probably thought I was doing everything I can. And if you've been around people with mental health issues, I mean, at a certain point, you're just like, oh, what's the problem of the day? Particularly, everybody knows that one person that is like total hypochondriac. There's always something wrong. Oh, what's the problem today? Oh, geez, And, it's like, okay, but life's got to go on. So, what can we do? Not trying to minimize that, but, he's thinking, hey, I'm working too. I'm helping out with the kids as much as I can, but I still got to do a job, or guess what? There will be no house. There will be no, staying home. They went from, dual income, no kids, to all of a sudden 3 kids and 1 income. He was probably sweating it a little bit. I mean, I don't know. But even if he was neglectful to her, didn't pay attention to her at every second, doting over her, I mean, it's just not an excuse in my humble opinion, that's all. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, can you believe, if you've been with us, it looks like it's at 203 minutes since I left Aspen. So what's that, 3 hours, 3.5 hours, something like that? Left at 4.5. Yeah, 3.5. And we're getting close to being home. Hope you enjoyed the view. Hope you enjoyed the ride, the conversation. Sorry about the, my car is telling me there's a rest area 1 mile away. Yeah, really? It's a residential area. I hope it's a rest area.
Next traffic light, now turn right.
And now it's like, oh my God, it's trying to tell me, like, it somehow thinks I want to go to a rest area when I was trying to turn off. Crazy. Anyway, this car's weird. But anyway, so like I said, that was my my day. 3.5 hours to Aspen, 15-minute court appearance, probably 10-minute conversation with the district attorney. Left the house at 8 o'clock this morning. It's now 6 o'clock. 4, 6, little 10 hours, although a pretty easy day. Frankly, that's every day is an average at minimum. Usually don't leave by leave home by 6 o'clock. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the ride. Hope you enjoyed the views. Maybe somebody hadn't ever seen Colorado like that and see how it changes so quickly. Now we're just about home, so I will thank you all for joining me. Thanks for watching my live as I drive home. And hopefully it had some, it was just me talking, but I tried to answer questions. But thanks for doing the ride, and maybe we'll do it again sometime. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, you know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment, and we'll see you tomorrow. And remember, and never forget,